Hi everyone, it's me, Arden Lee. I am back with another video, and today I want to talk about, can we change the kind of person that we are attracted to? This is some of the most confronting, sometimes, repatterning work that we can possibly do, because we have so much social conditioning that tells us that we can't do it, right? You just like who you like, and that's it. Even in the pickup artist world that I was a part of in my 20s, there is a very strong adage that goes around that says attraction is not a choice. And I can see the validity of that statement, because when we feel attraction in the moment, it's not something that comes from the mind. It's not something that comes from like, oh, I'm gonna decide, right? Because naturally, if we could just decide who we were attracted to, that might that might make things easier for us, right? There's so many people out there who are like, oh my God, why do I like the person who doesn't like me back? Why can't I just like a person who likes me, right? And I understand all of that, but really, this work is so much deeper than that. This work is really about changing our own self-image, changing our relationship to ourselves, and changing, really changing our relationship with self-love, which feels super cheesy when I'm saying it at the start of this video, but I'm going to unpack that. I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by it, because like I said in my video last week, self-love, anything that becomes trendy, that becomes sort of a zeitgeist in the collective, is going to be is naturally going to be co-opted by capitalism. So there's so much that tries to tell us nowadays that self-love is about bath bombs and CBD oil and all these things, and no shade on either bath bombs nor CBD oil. Great love for both, but really, this is really about deepening our work and changing our relationship to relationship, right? So I wrote about a post about this recently, and I'm going to get into that today. If you are not already familiar with me and my work, I'm the creator of the Repatterning Project. It is an 8-week course where we hack our beliefs and we go in and we do that deep inner work that we need to do to really organically change our mindsets and to be able to free ourselves from all of our negative patterning that we took on, growing up through formative relationships, et cetera, so we can really achieve true creative freedom. Hi, Edgar. Would you like to hang out while I make my video? If you haven't yet met my kitty, this is Edgar Allan Poe. He's we've known each other for about 2 weeks now, right? And he's the sweetest. All right, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. Can we change the kind of person that we are attracted to? Yes, absolutely we can. It's deep work. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to take us a lot of it's not, how do I want to say this? It's not about in the moment, can I just decide this person, that person? It's really about changing your relationship to yourself so that you change the kind of person that you align with, that you want to be in relationship with, and changing your relationship to relationship itself so that you are attracted to the kind of person who also wants the kind of relationship that you want, and who also wants you. Hi, Edgar. I clearly don't have to repattern you, do I? No. You are definitely down for the kind of cat and human relationship that I was looking for, and that's why we're soulmates. All right. So without further ado, first of all, your trauma imprints are not lifelong sentences. They're real. They absolutely exist within your body, and when you're in them, they're gonna feel like as limiting as possible. They're gonna feel like you're in a prison potentially, and the idea of getting outside of them is not only difficult and daunting, but sometimes it seems impossible. I know, because I've been there, and it took me a long time to figure out that actually, with enough dedication and intention setting and real deep inner work, and really refusing to go back to the ways that I'd been doing things before, that I could do that. I didn't really know it was possible, but I did reach a point where I was like, this is just enough. I can't do things the old way that I've been doing, so I might as well try something else. And and I hacked it. I figured it out. So I'm not going to get into the mechanics of that, because that's a whole thing, and that is very much the work that we do in the Repatterning Project. It's very much the work that I do with my one-on-one clients, and yeah, I'm not going to explain that entirely in this video, because that would make it really super long. There's a lot that I want to get to, but yeah, your trauma imprints, even though of course they feel real, of course they're serious, I don't want to dismiss them or or minimize them in any way, but you guys, we live in a universe of infinite possibility, and when you call back your creative freedom, you can really backwards engineer, with enough time and steps in between, and enough, giving yourself enough time to adjust to your own alignment as you go. Yeah, absolutely. You can for sure do this. This is absolutely work that I do with people all the time. So yeah, you are not bound by your early trauma. You are not bound by the things that you think limit you in life. You can absolutely free yourself from those things, with intention and with the right kind of guidance. So second, if you believe, like many people who are in this, like kind of stuck in this paradigm do, that there are only two kinds of people out there to possibly date: the ones you want, who don't want you back, or who hurt you, right? If you're like, I can't change the kind of person I'm attracted to. I'm attracted to assholes or jerks or whatever. I'm attracted to people who don't want me. And then I'm not attracted to these other people over here who do want me. And this is a really popular trope, you guys. This is a really popular belief that has been spread throughout the collective. If you really buy into that, then of course that's going to be reflected to you in your reality. And yes, there will be, people you are attracted to who are bad for you. There will be people who are into you who you will not be attracted to. But there's also a third type of person that you're failing to allow yourself to imagine, and that is the kind of person who is super into you, who you are just as into, and the two of you are absolutely thrilled to be in a relationship where your passion is equaled with one another. And if you can't imagine this, that's understandable, because it can take, for those of us who do have trauma imprints, it can take a lot to get there. And I know for me, my idea of worthiness was so wrapped up in people pleasing that I couldn't possibly imagine a person being with me who I wasn't like going out of my way to please and serve. And naturally that attracted people who wanted me to please and serve them, instead of just wanting to offer me unconditional love. So this idea of sitting and really imagining that third possibility of what is it like for someone who's absolutely amazing, who I totally want to be with, to actually show me unconditional love. Wow, that would be incredible, right? And like I said, that can be difficult for us to imagine at first, especially for those of us with a lot of conditioning or imprinting. But what is more fun to meditate on, right? If you're going to imagine something, you might as well start imagining that. And, in terms of the mechanics of how manifestation works, everything that exists always starts as an idea. And you get more and more density to that idea by adding thought to it, by adding emotion to it, by adding literally giving weight to it, right? Giving it gravity. And then it can come down into the pipeline of physical reality, and you'll start to see more and more opportunities for it. But it must start as the idea first. So if you were in that binary that you just believe there's two different kinds of people for you to date, and neither of them are ideal, then of course that reality is going to be reflected back to you. Third, you may have an archetype problem. I know for me, for a long time, I identified with the archetype of unrequited love. It was something that, growing up and doing theater, I was always cast in these roles, or told that I was meant for these roles that were really tortured. Lucy and Jekyll and Hyde, or these soulless sex pots like Lola and Damn Yankees. When I was 14, I auditioned for, I must have actually been 13. I think if it was fall semester of 8th grade, I auditioned for my high school music scholarship, and my voice teacher at the time handed me Delilah's aria from Sansone Dalila by Camille Saint-Saëns. And, so there I was at like at 13 years old being told, like, yes, you are Delilah. That is your role in life, right? And then people wonder why I turned out the way I did. So yeah, I had an archetype problem, and I realized this when my coach, Catherine Girardi, when we were working together early on, and what she said to me was, she's like, "Oh, you've got a narrative about being the unrequited lover, or being someone who who doesn't get to enjoy love, to have love, and I want you to go ahead and do an exercise where." Write up that contract and like stamp it completed and say you're done. Your new contract is as, the beloved, the bride, Mary Magdalene incarnate. You are the cherished woman. You are, the one who is adored and cherished and kept and loved. And I remember like having this visceral feeling in my body when she said that, and I was like, aren't people gonna make fun of me? Like if I think that I'm worthy of that, isn't there someone who's going to come out and say, no, like what are you thinking? No one will ever feel that way about you. And of course that's ridiculous, right? So the minute I had that thought in my head, I was like, oh wow, I really do have a narrative problem. I really do have an archetype problem. So naturally I did the exercise, and oh my gosh, I mean that that alone called in such a new energy for me, giving myself permission to say, yes, I am worthy of being the beloved, the bride, etc. I'm worthy of being that archetype, and I don't have to suffer to prove my worthiness. So much of my relationship to BDSM before I started doing this work was about suffering to prove my worthiness, So I was stuck in those narratives. So if you have an archetype problem, you want to start looking at that. That's probably something I could also make an entire other video about, so I won't go super deep into that, but it's probably more common than you may think. So it's definitely worth some thought and exploration. Fourth, if you believe that the pain in your love relationships is noble because it fuels your creativity, I'm going to say this again. If you believe that the pain you experience in your love relationships is noble because it fuels your creativity, then you are setting yourself up for a dynamic where you are unconsciously going to keep creating those painful love situations so that you can be more and more creative. And you're going to do this thing that I totally did, where you're having all of this going on, you're having all these painful situations happening, and you're making more and more art about it. And you're, I'm not going to lie, you guys, you're kind of just like stroking your own ego there, being like, wow, look how much I'm suffering, but I'm creating these amazing things, and so it must be worth it in some way. And someday someone will come along and love me because I've created all this stuff all this beauty out of my pain. Well, it's not going to work that way, because you're the one who has to decide that, right? You're the one who has to make the change. And if you like, I see this relationship as being almost like an IV drip, right? Like a siphon, where it's like we get all of this pain that we rely on to then be creative. Well, of course we're going to keep relying on that, because our identity is linked to the fact that it's like our magic feather. Like, I need the pain of relationship to make my creativity work. And you don't necessarily have to be in an artistic field for this to be true. There are so many people who are driven in their work, regardless of what it is, by the fact that they feel that their pain, their insecurities, or whatever, motivates them to be better, right? This could even be applied to money. This doesn't even have to be about art or creativity, although I'm sure, I mean, anything you're creating, I think, falls under creativity. But let's say that you're someone who is like, I want to make a lot of money, so therefore I need to be better. So if I'm still battling, the ghosts of my parents telling me I'm not good enough, that's the thing that's going to help me go out and make more money. Well, y'all, why are you surprised you're unhappy, right? You're relying on your unhappiness to motivate you. And this doesn't, it's just, first of all, it's absolutely unnecessary. And second of all, you're going to do a lot better from a place of creative freedom, where you're actually operating out of choice and not out of pain. And I can tell you for myself, freeing up, like removing that IV drip, removing that siphon of trauma from my creative work, has improved my creative work exponentially. And I say this as someone who went from, writing songs glorifying fuckboys to someone who is now dealing with really deep and complex and intricate esoteric material in her songwriting, and I'm so excited about it. My last EP, unsurprisingly, really got a lot more attention and partly because I invested in it, because I invested in myself. But more attention and acclaim than anything I'd ever done before, because in part I was writing it as a means of releasing trauma, right? This is designed to be an act of healing. We don't need any more narratives that are motivated by pain, you guys. We're in an ascension period, and staying on top of our vibe is really crucial. So Edgar, you are being a crazy cat. So excuse me. Thank you. So putting out narratives into the world, especially as an artist, you guys, especially as artists, we owe it to the world, especially in this time of intense transition, to be an example of hope and to be an example of healing. So if you're still writing from a place of pain, you guys, you are behind the wave. So you do not need pain in your relationships in order to create well. Why are you running around the house? It's too late to be doing that. At some point you need to believe, number 5, right? Number 5, at some point you're going to want to invite yourself into the belief, the understanding, I'm not even going to say belief, it's really an understanding that pain is boring, that you've done it, you've experienced it, and you can be done with it now. Because how many times do you have to have someone just completely disregard you and use you? And how much effort does it take for them to do that? How much work does it take someone to come over and raid your fridge and have sex with you and leave? How much work does it take someone to abandon you? How much effort do they have to put in to be another person who's screwed you over? 0. It takes no effort on their part for someone to take the world that you've handed to them and just throw it in the trash. Anyone can do that. Literally anyone can show up and hurt you. What's interesting is that person who actually shows up. That's the thing that's different, That's the thing that's different from the thing that you've done before. If you're in this paradigm, as I was, I got real curious about what would it be like for someone to actually put effort in. I want to stop, having these like, why am I glorifying these people who are just, I'm the one putting in all the work. I'm the one putting in all the magic. I'm the one committing and giving my emotional labor to try and make these relationships exciting or even functional or whatever. And people are just showing up and taking that and not putting in any effort themselves. It doesn't take anything. You could be anybody and do that, right? So I got really curious and interested about what does it look like for someone to actually have integrity and character and show up for me and reciprocate the amount of energy that I'm putting in. Wow, that would impress me. You want to come over and fuck me and raid my fridge and go home? Wow. Literally anyone could do that. I'm not impressed by that whatsoever anymore. If you want to actually impress me and be worth my time and attention, then do something else, because I'm boring. And if you bore me, I have disdain for that. So shifting your relationship so that you feel bored by the people who hurt you that was a really big hack for me. That's a really big one, you guys. So if you can assimilate that belief, meditate on that one, and really try and work that one into your body, it's going to help out a lot. Next one, what is this? 6, interrogate your erotic narratives. So part of me, as I said before, part of my interest in BDSM was because it enabled my beliefs that I had to suffer in order to be worthy, that I had to constantly work and strive for approval, and that it enabled my inability to set personal boundaries, right? So I didn't want to examine that, because kink and BDSM had become such a part of my identity, that I didn't want to give that up, because I didn't know who I would be, and because frankly it turned me on. And it was like, in my depressive periods of my life, of utter anhedonia, the only thing that brought me pleasure was utter surrender to a partner. Because of course that was what happened, because I was operating out of a wound where I needed someone else's presence and protection and approval to feel okay about myself. So nothing felt okay if I didn't have those moments where I was absolutely giving into someone and I felt safe, quote unquote, under their control, right? You're here now. You're telling me what to do. I'm submitting to you. I'm surrendering to you. So that means that, that I'm protected. Of course, that was a faulty belief too, because I also wasn't protected. But if you have an erotic narrative going on, the thing I always ask people is, I'm like, look, would you live your erotic fantasy if it had to be real? Because, as I've said many times, fantasy becomes reality when we commit to it. And maybe there are some people who can just like be weekend warriors and like get their crazy kink on and then, wipe their hands and be like, hey, that was great. And they have this wonderful, respectful relationship apart from that. If that's you, then great, awesome. I'm not going to judge you, because if it works for you, it works for you. But I know a lot of people who get into these relationships where they're being driven by an erotic narrative that is inherently dysfunctional. And they think it's okay because it's a fantasy, but then they get surprised when their relationship ends up reflecting the same thing to them. So it's just something to interrogate, If it works for you, great, but there's a lot of people that it doesn't work for. So if you're one of them, you might want to think about that. Number 7, we think that when we picture like, oh, can you change the kind of person you're attracted to? So often what we picture is, oh, I should go for that boring nice guy or nice gal who wants me, who I'm totally not inspired by, and that's like totally what Arden's advising me to do right now, and I don't want to do that. And so I'm here to tell you that, first of all, that nice guy or gal who likes you, but doesn't see that you're not inspired equally by them in return, first of all, they don't see you. They don't get you, they don't see you. Because if they did, they would actually understand that you're not inspired by them, and they would respect your truth, right? But, and it's fine. They're not like, they're not transgressing on you. They're just having their own feelings, and it's fine. But if they're unwilling to see where they fall short of actually inspiring your passion, that's not the partner you're supposed to be with, because they're not they're not capable of seeing you in your truth, right? So that's not the kind of person that I mean. So divest yourself from this notion that changing the kind of person that you're attracted to so you can be in a healthy relationship means that you have to go for that boring nice person who maybe has a crush on you, where they're kind of putting you on a pedestal a little bit. That's absolutely not true, because that's not the relationship that you want either. The relationship that you do want is one where your passion is equaled, where there's someone who you are super into, who is also super into you, and the two of you are meeting each other and seeing each other, and you're both thrilled to be there. If you are not a yes in your body, y'all, then that's not the relationship for you, right? That's not it. That's not the vibration of true love. That's not the vibration of a healthy, true love relationship that you're looking to call in. So if you're a no, you're a no, and that's fine. And in my estimation, the best thing to do in that scenario is just to really honor where your no is, and in the meantime, work on yourself, right? Everyone says that, but it is about doing that deep inner work and saying, no, this is my standard, and this is what I want, and I'm going to work so hard on sending my signal out to the world to attract that same kind of partner, which means I'm going to be the best me that I can be. I'm going to commit to the art that I want to make. I'm going to commit to a life that I'm in love with. I'm going to get all of me in order, so that I'm attracting the kind of person that I'm being, right? I'm being the kind of person that I want to attract, so I can attract the person that I want to be with, right? That's absolutely the best investment of your time when you're trying to call in that relationship, and and you're still waiting on your ability to imagine that third possibility of that person who's super into you, right? So don't don't settle. Just believe your passion can be equaled, and don't spend your time on anyone who is either boring you or hurting you, because that's a waste of your time and resources that could be better spent elsewhere. And finally, number 8, believe your passion can be equaled, right? That was it. I guess I kind of covered that one, right? Do that work. Do that work to call in that vision and be the person that you want to attract in your life, so that you are sending that signal out. So so those that kind of wraps it up. Those are my 8 tips for understanding that you can change the kind of person you are attracted to. And I've actually have one last one too, which is kind of a hack, a sort of exercise that that you can do, which is that if you want to really believe that someone amazing can be in love with you, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the experience of that person. So I highly recommend, when you're doing your meditation, when you're doing your visualization, really imagine what it's like to step inside the experience of a person who is falling in love with you, and to see yourself from the outside. One of the things, I've talked about this before, but one of the things that keeps us out of the vibration of self-love, right, that's what self-love is. It's not the bath bombs and it's not the CBD. One of the things that keeps us out of the vibration of self-love is that it's hard to fall in love with ourselves when we can't see ourselves, unless we are deliberately looking, in the mirror, in which case we're being self-conscious of how we look. We're, posing or whatever. We're like adjusting. We're feeding that belief that we have to adjust, right, in order to be worthy of love. Or in so many cases, we're looking at photos and they're not candid. Again, we're posing, we're putting our best angle forward. But really, when people fall in love with us is typically when we are in that state of flow, when we are in that unself-conscious state of being, where we're just, just being ourselves and doing what we love. So if you can step into the experience of someone who's observing you in that state, then that's going to show you what it's like for someone to fall in love with you when you're just being yourself. That's going to show you what unconditional love really feels like from the experience of that person. So secret, you guys, this is probably like, I feel a little embarrassed about admitting this, but sometimes I will watch my videos back because even though, yeah, I'm on camera and whatever, I think you notice that I make so much content that I really do just try to get myself into a flow state, and I don't really care if I mess up a word or a sentence or whatever. I'm all about getting the information out. So it is this kind of natural state of being, because I'm prioritizing the flow of information over the way that I'm looking, which means that when I do this, unless I do a major screw up in the middle of the video and I have to start over, typically I'm in that sort of unself-conscious state of flow because I'm concentrating on the information that's coming in rather than how I look or how people are going to perceive me or whatever. I'm not in that place. So I will watch my videos back as a means of practicing imagining that kind of unconditional love, right? What would it be like to be someone who's like super into me and watching my videos because they like me or whatever, right? What would it be like? And even more so, I do this with, when I have a performance. I have a band, you guys. I'm a singer. I have a band called Arden and the Wolves, if you're not already familiar. And I will watch, video of my performances back because I'm in that flow state. And I'll imagine, like, what is it like to be someone who just loves me, just doing what I love to do, right? That's how I practice falling in love with myself. I practice falling in love with myself by giving myself the opportunity to observe myself doing what I love, and and hacking it, and hacking, like being like, yeah, of course, what would it be like to really notice all of the wonderful things about me and not the flaws? What would it be like even to notice the flaws about me and not care, right? There's certain angles that I don't like my face from sometimes because I'm human and we all have that. And I've asked myself the question, like, gee, Arden, like, do you think there's ever been a person that you've fallen in love with who doesn't like their face from a certain angle? Do you ever feel that way about them? No, you like their face from every angle because you're in love with them. How would it feel for someone to look at you and like your face from every angle because they're in love with you? I ask myself these questions and I call that into my imagination because that's how I'm going to call that down into reality. That's how I'm going to be able to recognize and accept when that happens. And moreover, to so believe it is possible and so prioritize that kind of relationship over anything else that that becomes the thing that's important to me. And I'm no longer in any way attracted to or interested by these dynamics where people just don't see me or reject me, quote unquote, or whatever. I'm just not interested in it because it's not the thing that I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on what does it look like to have a super amazing, really attractive person who is doing you know, the same kind of work that I am doing in the world with either their work or their art or their, you know, whatever it is that they're doing, and that they're, you know, they're making those same kind of efforts on themselves as I'm making on myself. What is it like to meet someone who's you know, super amazing in my eyes, and to imagine them actually feeling the same way about me? So that's really it. It really is, at the end of the day, about opening your imagination more to that possibility and breaking out of that binary that the only kinds of people that you can be attracted to are people who are bad for you, people who hurt you or who treat you badly. You just have to get tired of being treated badly, you guys. Like, at the end of the day, that's really the crux of it. You just have to decide that you're done. So anyway, I hope you guys, I hope this was helpful. I know this video is super long. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.